Brooks Running has a new shoe for you runners out there. Did you hear that? Better turn up your volume. In fact, turn it up to the max. Introducing the all-new Ghost Max. It's got all kinds of things to make your knees and ankles feel protected, like Max Cushion, Max Soft Landings with DNA Loft V2 foam, and Max Smooth Rides with their Glide Roll Rocker. Feel better on your run with Ghost Max. Learn more at brooksrunning.com.
Reaching out to sober groups when you're getting sober, and how at first that can seem such an awful thing to have to do,
so
mixed with all these sober people.
Yeah.
But in fact, it can really help you on your sober journey. And we thought it was a really important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
I've actually been asked by a few people about, where can I find sober groups and things like that.
Yeah, it's usually where people start off, isn't it?
It is.
When you're questioning, when you're sober curious, you start off wondering what are the first steps. And this is probably one of the first steps. We're actually going to cover this over 2 podcasts, because the next one's going to be about your first sober social, a step-by-step guide. So this is more of a introduction to that, I guess, Lucy,
and this is more about going out with other sober people, just a group of sober people, whereas the next podcast, we're going to talk about going out with people who are probably going to be drinking, say at a wedding or some sort of event.
Oh God, they're the worst.
So, sometimes I don't know. I mean, what is worse? Is it worse going out when you've been a drinker for years and years and you've always hung around with people who are drinking? Is it harder to go out with a group of completely sober people, or to go out with a group of really pissed people? But they're both things that, you don't have to find a sober group, but we feel there's a lot of benefit in it. And for me, there was. Yeah. And it was kind of how we met as well. So shall we start?
Let's begin.
Vic? Let's go. So if you've reached a stage like Vic and I had, where alcohol was a hugely significant part of your life, you might be wondering and worrying about what happens to your social life when you quit and going out no longer means getting wasted. I mean, are there really other sober people out there? And if so, what do they do and where are they hiding? And if you hunt them down, will you be able to connect with them based on just one common goal, sobriety? The thought of discovering and finding a place in this seemingly parallel universe can be overwhelming. For us, and for many, the worry of finding kindred sober spirits, excuse the pun, is yet another excuse to stick to the comfort of old mates and old habits.
Oh yeah, that's a comfy place. Old mates and old habits, isn't it? Bloody
did it
down
for 25
the
years.
In a cosy corner with a fire on, a couple of pints. Yeah.
Give us a Stella.
Trigger warning. What we want you to take away from our podcast today is to understand how we felt about finding sober communities while we were still drinking, and how we got over this mindset and eventually reached out for support from them. We'd like to share with you the kind of spaces we found and how they helped us, in the hope of inspiring you to find similar spaces you can enjoy. And we get it, sober socialising can be pretty nerve-wracking at first. So we'll share with you what you can expect when you meet up with other sober peeps. We can assure you that it is rarely boring. Finally, we'll bang on about the importance of sober communities and why they are a flathead screwdriver of your sobriety toolbox.
Yes, because you can't do without that flathead, can you?
No.
Got his flathead.
It's better than a spanner in the works, as they say.
All very clever, Vic.
Thank you.
You really are
back on form, baby.
So what we're going to start with here, because we don't like to come across high and mighty. When we were still drinking, we didn't think much of sober groups, did we? No, it was the last place we wanted to be. So we're going to tell you what we thought about sober people, sober groups, sober communities when we were still drinking.
Yeah, so I didn't really know there was a big sober community out there, basically, is what I thought when I read about this, that we were going to cover this topic. I knew there was AA, and that seemed like a quite extreme group for me at the time, but actually I would have been welcomed with open arms there. I realise now they would have been like, yes, you
were the perfect candidate.
I was actually the perfect candidate, but for some that isn't what people want to do, so that's okay too. But yeah, I didn't want to hang around with sober people. I thought they were boring and really smug, and I didn't want people around me that saw what I was doing or could remember my behaviour. I hated being around them. They made me actually want to drink more. Because I just thought I was like a lush at the bar, do you know what I mean, with a cocktail, like snarling at people that weren't drinking as much as I was, because I just thought they were totally dull. Yeah, I thought that perhaps they all read from the Bible with a glazed expression, then showered in bleach.
I thought that as well. And I thought I was so much better than them. But what a stupid thing to think.
I mean, I thought that they were just like kind of creepy, almost like the sort of people that would have sex with rubber gloves on.
You make them sound like aliens.
Yeah, like I just thought it was just like
subhuman beings.
Yes, like some sort of creepy latex wearing, extremely clean. I don't know. I just had this weird thought of what sober people were like.
They were so far from our reality that we kind of we created them in our imagination.
Yeah, with like a gas mask on. You know what I mean, though? Like, completely out of this world. Like, why would anybody be sober? I cannot understand them. They're just completely on a different planet than I'm on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What about
extraterrestrial.
Yeah, extraterrestrial, yeah.
Oh, well, very much the same. I mean, the first thing I've put on my list is, what do these people do?
God,
what do you do when you go out sober?
Of course, everything.
Everything.
We realise now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you just don't drink.
Yeah. Exactly. You put the thought of going out and not drinking just closed every door to everything else. So it was like, what do these people doing? What are they doing when they're meeting up?
Morris dancing,
maybe
pole dancing.
But surely you can have a drink
not sexual pole. Yeah,
with their gas masks on.
Yeah. Weird.
I can see it.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
I don't know.
Remember, we are those sober people now, so we're not being completely derogatory to a certain group of people. I used to think, like you were just saying with AA, that it's going to be full of people who are worse than me.
Right.
You know, I'm okay, Jack, that I've just got a little bit of a drinking issue that's bothering me, but these people are going to be sort of, you know, on their what they called when they're having a transplant, and they've got those
dialysis.
They're going to be on dialysis, and I'm going to be, you know, the healthy one. That's what I thought.
Yes, because you like to separate yourself from them. Yeah,
the same as the AA. I'm not bad enough to go to AA, and this is what you talk about a lot, Vic, on your blog and in your upcoming book, is that space where you do have an issue or a problem with alcohol, but you're not ready to go to rehab or be hospitalised. What about all those people in between?
Yes,
and that's the kind of people that you will find at the sobriety groups. And I have to say that when I've been to sobriety groups and opened a conversation with someone, I've been up there amongst the worst of them, I think. So that was a really invalid point that I had, that everybody would be worse than me. I also thought that it would kind of impound the dread of this new sober world I was heading into. I was worried about going along and just these really boring gas mask wearing people, Morris dancing. Yeah. And then I would think, oh my God, I really don't want to be part of this, and start drinking again. So it was a worry about going and hating it and realising that there was nowhere for me to go because I didn't like sober groups. I'd done AA and I hadn't got a lot from it. It just so happened that the group that I joined was a lot of people a lot older than me that I couldn't relate to around the drinking.
Yes, because you've got to resonate with these people. You've got to find people no matter where it is. I mean, we'll talk about that later, but you've got to resonate, and there's some groups that will work and some groups that don't. Yes. And for me, I didn't know that groups existed with people like me. I think that's part of the problem, isn't it? We look at the extremes, but there are many, many groups with people who are just like us, and that's what we've both discovered.
Yeah, and you've just got to keep hunting for them and finding the right group. But there was a really funny point I wanted to mention, because Vic, you've been on Meetup with your sober group for a number of years now, haven't you?
Yeah, a couple of years.
And I can remember when I was still drinking really heavily, but desperately looking for some sort of support, that I went online and I tapped in sober groups or something, and Meetup came up. And then I saw that there was a sober group on the coast run by a lady called Victoria, who had been sober at that point for, I think, about a year and a half. And I remember,
boring twat.
Didn't take any more time to look into who she was. I just saw the words, her name is Victoria, she's been sober for 18 months. Oh my God, I thought, she sounds awful, I'm not going to that. That
were
is
right.
that is how much time I gave it. It wasn't until after we'd actually met and became friends that it clicked. Oh my God, that Victoria that I saw in the meetup, that's
That you
Vic.
judged.
That I judged on a name and a length of time sober.
Yeah.
And so don't judge too quickly.
No,
I suppose it's a really good thing in this podcast to say to people, don't judge before you go.
Yeah.
And give everybody a chance to talk and get a feel for it and try some different ones. We're going to move on to that.
Yeah, don't make the same mistakes that we did, basically.
Yeah.
Because we had these attitudes that we've just spoken about, which we judged sober groups, we judged the people there, so we didn't go and we didn't get help, which led to us drinking for a very, very long time, both of us. Whereas, in fact, what we're going to tell you today is that those groups are the groups that you want to join.
Yes, and we made massive mistakes with all this horrible judgmental attitude.
Yes.
It was totally wrong. And I mean, I've not come across a gas mask
No.
or a Morris dancer
Yeah.
or anyone with 3 heads.
No,
Yet.
not yet, no.
But I have seen some funny people at these groups. Let me tell you, they're not boring.